In our last video, we looked at the causes of the war and what initiated World War I, and now we're going to look at some of the key battles. We're going to look at Marne, we're going to look at Verdun, Somme, Saint-Mihiel, and Hindenburg Line. These key battles are going to mark various stages during the war, and all are going to be fought on the German front in France. Let's first look at the Battle of Marne. The first Battle of Marne took place on September 5th through September 9th, 1914. And the most important consequence of the battle was that the French and British forces were able to prevent the German plan for a swift and decisive victory. And it's going to prevent the fall of Paris. And at one point, the French used 600 taxis to transport 6,000 reinforcements 40 miles from Paris to the front to fight these Germans. In the summer of 1918, a second battle is going to be fought at Marne. And a combined French, British, and U.S. force is going to hold off a German offensive. This battle marks the last real attempt by the Central Powers to win the war. The Battle of Verdun. This was fought from February 21st to December 18th, 1916 in Verdun, France. This is 120 miles east of Paris. In the end, you're going to have about 1 million dead or wounded. It demoralizes both sides. We have a change in command in both sides. The first extensive use of a flamethrower, and half of the German army in France is going to fight in Verdun. 3/4 of the French army is going to fight in the Battle of Verdun. The Battle of Somme. From July 1st to November 18th, 1916. The Somme River in France, which was a 25-mile front on either side of the river. It's going to draw Germans away from the Battle of Verdun, and tactics become more sophisticated, and supply lines become more efficient, and this becomes the first use of tanks by the British in this conflict. The Battle of Saint-Mihiel. From September 12th to September 13th, 1918. This is at the French and German border, southwest of Verdun. It's the first battle exclusively using American troops under American commanders. The Hindenburg Line. The Hindenburg Line proved to be a formidable barrier to Allied forces on the Western Front. The Hindenburg Line was a vast system of defenses in northern France constructed by the Germans during the winter of 1916 to 1917. It runs from an area around Arras all the way to beyond St. Quentin and consists of deep, wide trenches, thick belts of barbed wire, concrete machine gun positions, concrete bunkers, tunnels, and command posts. It was considered virtually impregnable by the Germans. In other words, they aren't going to be able to go through it. The British offensives of 1917 and 1918 were to prove otherwise. The line proved a crucial stronghold when the German commanders Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff couldn't successfully pursue an attack on the Western Front in 1917. The initial retreat line, Operation Albrecht, proved to be a shrewd maneuver by the Germans, and despite fears that the troops would be demoralized when forced to relinquish hard-won ground, the move actually strengthens the German position and consolidated their forces, allowing the Germans to rest in a defensive position while conducting submarine attacks against the British supply line. British forces breached the line in early October of 1918, and a month later, the Great War comes to a close. You see some pictures down here, General Hindenburg, Kaiser Wilhelm II, and General Ludendorff, and General Hindenburg and Ludendorff down here. We have some discussion questions over what you just saw about the battles. The Battle of Marne altered the war Germany had hoped and planned for, and it set the stage for a long, drawn-out contest Germany would get instead. Can you explain how it did that? Number 2, the Hindenburg Line was set up to enable German retreat, but it was meant to help Germany regain the advantage in fighting in France. Can you explain why German commanders thought it would do that? Put the answers to those in your notes, and we'll talk about those in class.